He thought I was blind. That's what amused me the most. His arrogance. The way he slipped that manila folder into my drawer, pretending to borrow a stapler. The tremor in his fingers gave him away, though he hid it behind a polished smile. I watched him leave, the faint echo of his expensive shoes fading down the corridor. I didn't stop him. I didn't need to. By then, the game was already mine. Ethan Ward, Vice President's golden boy, corporate royalty. He was hired straight out of nowhere and handed a title people spend years earning. I trained him myself, taught him how the numbers breathe, how the systems hum when they're clean. He was charming in that hollow, self-assured way men become when they've never been told no. He'd drop by my office with coffee, ask about my weekend, pretend to respect me. And for a while, I believed him. I thought mentorship still meant something. I thought loyalty could exist in boardrooms. Then came the promotion that should have been mine. My name was on the shortlist until the very last meeting. I watched the VP's son take my chair while I stood applauding like a fool. No warning, no explanation, just a polite email about organizational restructuring. I stayed quiet. That's what people like me do when we've got something better than anger. We wait. The first clue came weeks later. A missing file from the audit records. Then another. Reports that I'd supposedly misfiled or forgotten to submit. I checked the system logs. Someone had been accessing my credentials remotely. I traced it step by step until I found it. Ethan's digital fingerprint buried beneath layers of corporate firewalls he barely understood. He wasn't clever enough to cover his tracks, just confident enough to think he didn't need to. He'd been building a trail of errors tied to my name, shifting blame, painting me as negligent. And the timing lined up perfectly, just before the upcoming financial review. If compliance found irregularities, I'd be the scapegoat. The vice president's son couldn't be accused. I could. That's when the cold part of me woke up. The part that doesn't raise its voice, it sharpens its knives. For weeks, I collected everything. Every access log, every timestamp, every internal memo he'd forgotten to delete. I recorded late office visits under the excuse of double-checking files. I mirrored his emails, captured the metadata, enough to reconstruct every move he'd made. I even planted a few breadcrumbs of my own, harmless-looking discrepancies that traced straight back to his terminal. When you work quietly, people assume you're harmless. That's the mistake that kills them. Then I found the perfect bait. A document outlining unauthorized wire transfers. Not real ones, I forged just enough detail to look damning but not verifiable. A draft version of a financial anomaly report. It had my name on it, of course. And when Ethan thought he was framing me, he was just walking straight into a noose I'd woven strand by strand. That morning, I left my drawer slightly open, the fake document inside, visible but not obvious. I made sure Ethan saw it when he dropped by with his usual casual grin. He waited until I looked away. Then he did exactly what I knew he would. Slipped it into my drawer, and walked out like he'd just buried a landmine. The moment the door closed, I took the same folder and slid it into his briefcase. He never noticed. He never checked. 1 hour later, the compliance team walked in with their stone faces and clipboards. Behind them, security. Behind them, the police. They'd received an anonymous tip. I made sure of that. About potential document tampering involving internal transfers. They asked Ethan to open his briefcase, and when that folder appeared, stamped with confidential headers and my forged signature, the silence in the room could have cut through steel. His face drained. His father's name couldn't save him from the evidence, not when his fingerprints were all over the papers. I watched it all unfold from my chair, calm as ever. The compliance officer turned toward me, confusion flickering in her eyes. I shrugged like I was as shocked as anyone. Ethan stammered, tried to explain, but his words collapsed under the weight of the evidence. I'd made sure of that. Security escorted him out past the same desk where he'd once leaned, smirking, talking about ambition. He didn't look back. 2 days later, the vice president resigned to focus on family. Ethan was charged with evidence tampering and internal fraud. His father's influence couldn't rewrite what the cameras, files, and timestamps said. I'd built a case too clean to contest. My name was cleared, my promotion reinstated. But by then, I'd stopped caring about titles. Some victories are quieter, sharper. People think revenge is about rage. It's not. It's about correction, about restoring balance to a world that tilts toward privilege.